Live from the back of Ruth the Realtor's town car, it's the Stacking Deed Show. I'm Ruth's part-time mechanic, neighbor Doug, and according to the calendar Ruth gave me, it's almost Cinco de Mayo, and it's also Taco Tuesday. Let's talk about it. See what I did there? Speaking of Mexican cuisine, does the thought of being a landlord make you run for the border? You can breathe easier because joining us today, we have Tom Brickman and Lauren Keene Aumond, and we discuss making real estate investing as passive as possible and as hands-off as possible. Hey, hands off my taco! Only have 15 left. In our headlines, we talk differences between leveraged income and passive and how to manage a portfolio during a siesta. Halfway through, I'll share some taco trivia. And now, two hosts whose second casa is Taco Bell, Crystal Hammond and Alan Corey.
All right, thanks, Doug, for that great introduction. Doug doesn't know me too well because I hate Taco Bell. I'm Crystal, and sitting next to me is my pal, Alan Corey. How are you? Are you a Taco Bell kind of guy?
Yes, I am. I'm a budget-friendly foodie. It's speed and price.
Speed to the bathroom?
Yeah, nice.
So joining us today, they're about to get in the car quickly. We have Lauren Keene Aumond, and we also have Tom Brickman. So Lauren is from Adulting is Easy. Hi, come on in.
Hi, thank you. Is there enough room back here for me?
Of course not, but we always make it work. Are you a Taco Bell kind of gal? What's your take, your hot take?
Absolutely not. I'm a Tijuana Flats girl.
Cheers.
I don't know what Tijuana Flats is, but I'm going to have to try it out. Is it fast food?
It's fast casual.
We ate there. Is that where we ate in Jacksonville that one time? There was a Mexican restaurant. I don't know. All right. Anyway, let me get Tom in here too to make it even extra comfy here. Tom Brickman, come on into the car.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go on the roof at this point because this car is full. Everyone's eating Taco Bell. I am going up on the roof for my own safety. Am I a Taco Bell fan? I mean, that's how I got through college. So no, I can do it maybe once or twice a year at this point, but I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't have my early Taco Bell days. And I got to tell you real quick, I used to dress up my bean burritos and put M&Ms on them while I was in college. And that's how I know it's the perfect mix of sweet and salty. That's how I got through my college days. I think bean burritos were like 79 cents or 89 cents back then. And that was my staple.
More tips like these at the Frugal Gay 11. Thank you, Tom Brickman.
Yes. Thank you for sharing.
M&Ms on those bean burritos. Follow me for more recipes.
OMG. So we may as well chat while we're on this nice long ride. So I have this piece here that, what a coincidence, we have all these great minds in the car. So this is a great topic for us too. So this piece comes to us from the New York Times, and they say, what's passive income? It's not what influencers say it is. So this is a hilarious story. This piece comes to us by Lisa Rabaska Rope. She starts off by this one guy, Luca. He was looking to supplement his income as a real estate agent. He saw this YouTube video about how to make $150 a year in passive income selling salt and pepper shakers online. He spent about $5,000 sourcing all the stuff. And about a whole year later, he only made $300 in sales. So I think, Tom, you might be one of the best sources on this kind of story. Tell us about you and your passive income. Wasn't it bras?
I did bras for a while. It's not as passive as people make it seem online. Even with digital products, there's still an aspect where you have to do something. You have to respond. I mean, I was on vacation and this person started giving me shade because I hadn't shipped out something, but there's 18 messages when they buy something that say, won't be shipped till this day, won't be shipped till this day. So I think that is deceptive, and I see reels on it constantly. There are some truly passive, but for me, eBay and digital products and all of that has not been as passive as the 30-second reels make it seem.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Well, the article actually refers to this as leveraged income, a lot of upfront work that you're going to get paid later. Because you look up definitions of passive income, it's also royalties and book sales and IP, but there's a lot of work to get a patent or to write a book or create a course, and then it becomes passive. So yeah, I sort of like the definition of leveraged income. And I think the same applies to real estate investing. Lauren, what do you think about that?
Leveraged income, that's interesting. I think passive income, generally, what we're hearing from people, whether it be influencers or others, it's like a synonym for like non-work income. People call it passive income, but I'm not going to call Turo, I'm not going to call Uber Eats driving, Instacart driving. I'm not even going to call most sources of real estate passive income. I've been known to call it passive aggressive income, but I think leveraged is great because there is a lot of work up front. And some of that work goes back before you even purchase properties to the hustling that you need to do to maybe save your first down payment or find those partners or find those deals. So that's where a lot of the work comes in. And then I'm pretty heavy in short-term rentals. I'm about to open my 10th short-term rental. And then I have 3 long-term rentals. And that is definitely leveraged in the sense that you're also furnishing and decorating and stocking a whole entire kitchen. So there's a lot of work up front. And then once you've got the systems in place, it's relatively passive from then on. So I agree with that. I like that term, Alan.
They say in this article, a lot of people claim to be making passive income, but actually only 20% of American households earn passive income. And they earn it through dividends, interest, or what we just talked about, rental properties. So are you guys all in those 3 areas, dividends, interest, and rental properties, or mostly just rental properties? And they also say most people only make $4,200 a year. I'm pretty sure you make more than that, but would that even be worth it?
Well, if it's passive, yeah. If it's legitimately passive, yeah,
True.
of course, it's going to be worth it. But
Depends on the leverage.
yeah,
If you have to spend 6 months working to get that $4,200 a year, I don't know about that. But Tom, I think, has all of those, right? You have the dividends, you collect interest from when you hold mortgages, and then you have obviously the rental income as well.
Yes. I don't have them where I want to be, but I build on them. I do the dividend reinvestment. So it is growing. And, I love watching that every year because it does have the compounding effect. And yeah, so I have all 3. I just don't have them cranking in as much as I'd like.
Do you rotate your time towards one over the other, would you say?
As I get further and further into real estate, like even today, I got a kickback for a permit that I requested for a house because of an issue at another house. And I'm like, why don't I put this $40,000 into dividends? Why don't I do this? So I think that spreading it around is crucial. And I'm so heavy into real estate at this point. And I work with these 2 cities in 2 different states and I'm at their mercy. So if they want to give me a hard time for this property being an issue and not give me a permit for that property, it slows everything down. So I think spreading it around has benefits. So if one thing dries up or you have that one issue, then you have this income from this and you have this income from this. And that's always been why I've done eBay too. I call it my safety blanket. But you know what? When I have a really expensive month and I'm told, hey, you owe $8,400 for foundation repair, I'm like, well, I better sell a lot of Bath and Body Works this month because I don't have that $8,400 ready on deck. So I'm going to start selling some lotion and selling some bras and I'm going to make it work. And that's always been I've been doing that since I was in college. I didn't have money for books, so I started selling purses. Like that was how it all started.
Well, my problem is I have the intention to diversify. I put it in dividends and stocks, and then I see a property I get excited about, and then I sell all those alternatives so I have enough funds to go buy the property. I've done that a dozen times, and I'm like, why do I even try? Let's just stick with real estate. And the way I look at it is I'm trading one passive income for another one, which is real estate. Sure, it's all real estate, but I feel like I'm diversifying by having more real estate, more real estate, more real estate is the way I look at it. But also I have a real estate addiction.
You do. And you're also a realtor. So you've like doubled down in every way, shape, or form. But I tweeted this and Alan, you had, I think, the funniest response. But I've put about $250,000 of cash into real estate and that equity is worth $1 million. And that's roughly the real number. I've put $250,000 into the stock market and that's worth $500,000. And I posted that. And my point is, by the way, I also have stocks, okay? And a lot of that is for the 401k, the Roth IRA. Most of it is there, so there's tax benefits to that, right? But Alan, you were like, I'm sorry you lost $500,000. That was your response to that tweet. So
Alan is biased. He will always be biased towards real estate. We have no leg to stand on. So that also brings up another great point. The whole second part of this piece talks about how, wait for it, extra income isn't passive. And this couple talks all about their woes on how buying investment property, their 2 rental properties that they own, it's not been passive at all.
All right, real quick. I love this topic about passive real estate investing. I want to talk more. Let's cut to a quick break. Let's do our trivia question, and then we'll be right back with Tom Brickman at the Frugal Gay 11 and Lauren Keen Aumond at Adulting is Easy. And we're going to talk more passive real estate right after we hear from Doug.
Hey there, Dieters. I'm Ruth's Senior Director of Fetchin' Stuff, Neighbor Doug, and this is today's Property Pop Quiz. According to a 2019 article in Forbes, Americans prefer Mexico as their favorite international location for a second home. Of those 1 million expats currently living abroad in Mexico, what percent actually own real estate there? I'll give you uno momento to think it over, and I'll be back right after I audition for this mariachi band. I'm going to dress the part with this stacking deeds sombrero. It's snazzy.
Big news. We've partnered with Steadily Landlord Insurance, America's best-rated landlord insurance provider. Discover why landlords nationwide are choosing Steadily for their insurance coverage. Get a quote online in minutes at stackingdeeds.steadilypartner.com. We'll also put a link to that in our show notes. Steadily was founded by landlords for landlords and specialize in landlord insurance. They've made their mission to be the absolute best provider in the market for dwelling, umbrella, builder's risk, renter's insurance, and more. Go to stackingdeeds.steadilypartner for your white glove insurance needs.
Hey there, Dieters. I'm salacious salsa dancer and maybe next year mariachi band member, Neighbor Doug. But I'm mucho gracias. I'm still Ruth's part-time mechanic. With roughly 1 million Americans living abroad south of the border today, what portion of those Americans own real estate in Mexico? I'll bet half my Mexican jumping beans you don't get this answer correcto. There are roughly 500,000 Americans owning real estate south of the border, making today's answer 50%. Ay caramba! Ruth, think this car can make it to Mexico? I got dinero to burn, baby! All right, back to Crystal, Alan, Tom, and Lauren as they hablan, yeah, I can conjugate verbs, about outsourcing real estate headaches just like Ruth outsources her super importante executive level errands to good old me.
Thank you, Doug, for that trivia question. Let's hop right back into this piece. So the second part, there's a couple who talks about how their real estate journey has not been as passive as they figured at all. First, they start off by saying being a residential landlord is very labor intensive. Finding a long-term tenant isn't always easy. And then when something breaks, it needs to be fixed or replaced immediately, even though she and her husband live more than 2,000 miles away from the property. Lauren, you can probably speak to this, especially with long-term rentals.
Yeah, so it's not as passive, I don't think, as anybody thinks it's going to be. And especially when it's upfront, like this couple, if they're first-time landlords, you sort of are learning on your feet. There's only so much you can learn. No offense, Stacking Deeds. Love you guys. There's only so much you can learn from podcasts. There's only so much you can learn from books. At some point, you have to get out there and actually buy the real estate. And you're going to be learning on your feet. And so it's not going to be as passive at first until you build your team and build your systems and some of those things. And frankly, you yourself a little bit are going to need to change. You need to become a little more resilient, a little more flexible. And that's just what I've seen that's happened to most people I know that have become landlords.
So when did you first decide, okay, I need a team? Like what was that moment, that aha moment?
Well, I break light bulbs changing them. That was a big part of it. Like I'm really bad at DIY. And so I always knew that I wasn't going to be the type that was in there fixing kitchens and bathrooms and doing stuff like that. So I always knew that the maintenance and repairs were going to need to be outsourced. I always planned on property management because I think you should do that in your underwriting of your deals no matter what and be ready for that. When it comes to the short-term rentals, I knew I was going to need a cleaner. We knew we were going to need landscapers. We knew we were going to need people that could be like gophers and run things to guests if we were never, not around. Because for a long time we rotated among our Airbnbs, and so we wouldn't be there sometimes when people were there. So you almost have to know who you are as a person and what you're going to be capable of doing, but also be prepared, I think, in your underwriting to literally outsource everything and build that team. And it's trial and error. You may find a cleaner that is fantastic right away. You may find the realtor that's great, the lawyer, the accountant. But in my experience, it's going to take a couple of swings at it. And again, that's why as you do this, the first 2 properties, they're going to be hard. But once you keep going, you get the right people in place and you become better at it and more resilient and more confident.
Oh, good points. And then Tom, they also talk about that they actually bought another property in Mexico, and it's been expensive, getting all that stuff together and then trying to figure out how to repair things. But you have properties in different cities and states. So how are you managing owning properties in different states?
I wish they were in Mexico. It'd probably be more fun than Toledo, Ohio.
Me too.
I have built up a team, and that's why, I just got a DM today, and they're like, what about Cleveland? And I'm like, what about no? I lost money when I tried there, and it was a big no. So building your team, I'm echoing off of Lauren, but if you don't have a team in place, and today, I've got 3 different things going on at 3 different houses up in Ohio. And yes, I'm following up to make sure that they're getting done, but I'm getting progress and I'm getting pictures and it's moving. So I know that my 3 projects, even though I'm not there in Ohio, are moving daily. And I do daily draws or weekly draws with these contractors or with these different employees. I have someone cleaning at one to get the short-term rental ready. I have someone painting at one. That's a trial and error. Like Lauren said, it took me a while to get the right property manager who can do the showings, to get the cleanings right. I still have to have people go in and double check and make sure that they're on par. And I had debt-free guys cleaning at one of the short-term rentals before we had a guest because no one else showed up. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Want to go clean? And that's what it takes sometimes to get your team and get systems in place. You just want to try and minimize the mistakes. You don't want to put too much down with a contractor you haven't worked with before because you don't want them to ghost you as soon as you've handed them $3,000. And I see that a lot with people. You got to do it. You got to make it make sense for you where you can build trust. Now I've worked with a lot of my contractors in both states, so I feel comfortable when I hand them $4,000, $5,000, whatever it is to get a project started because I know that they're not going to ghost me.
I'll say this. Every property that I've ever bought, it's the most work right after closing. And then it gradually gets easier. Where how to change the air filters, where, how reliable the HVAC is. Once you get through the first summer, the quirks of the property. Each year you just you get into rhythm with that property and you're like, oh, it's probably time that I need to check on XYZ, or you just set reminders for yourself. It's one of those things now, like properties that I've had for over 10 years, 100% passive. It's so easy. I know a guy's got to go every 6 months and clean the gutters, right? But it took me a while to figure out that calendar and that schedule. And you think about it less and less, and it operates just as fine with lesser of my time committed to the project. You guys experience the same with yours?
Well, what I'll add to that, Alan, is I think everyone should give themselves a little bit of grace. You may not nail it right up front. And this is something that I didn't do with my short-term rentals. And I was talking to someone, they were like, yeah, I have a mistakes line in my budget. I was like, that's a brilliant idea. Where the cleaner doesn't show up, right? That would be like a mistake. It doesn't matter if it's your fault, doesn't matter if it's their fault. If you're comping that cleaning fee for those people, then that would be like your mistake line item. And I'm going to give those people their $70 or those $90 back. The cleaner's going to come while they're at dinner, but I lose that, right? And you could apply it to almost anything, but just know that you're not going to get everything right, but you're going to come out more ahead than if you didn't act and you didn't get into real estate at all, and just trust that.
Alan, you brought up a good point about a calendar. So what are some best practices for communicating and collaborating between you as the investor and all your outsourced people? Like, are you having regular meetings? Do you use metrics? Are you using apps or tools? How are you even communicating with your people?
For me specifically, I now have teams, a property management company. So I don't even know my tenants' names. They don't know my name. And that makes it completely passive. And like Lauren said, try to buy investments where you budget that in, whether you use it or not. Because when you do pivot to property management, that makes it completely passive. I know Lauren has a little bit more direct contact through Airbnb and I think your long-term rentals, right?
Yes, I self-manage everything, and like I said, it's not completely passive, but I will say my husband and I both have full-time jobs, and we're able to self-manage our 14 doors, and we're about to launch our 10th short-term rental. So we are able to do that with these full-time jobs. So we've done that through the systems, of course, the teams that we talked about. You have to have a great cleaner. You have to have a great landscaper, especially in Florida. People are coming down here. They want palm trees and shells. They want leaves everywhere. Want to be beautiful. Our jacuzzi person has to be good and keeping that clean because one of our units has a jacuzzi. Maybe don't recommend, but that's another story. So once we have our team in place, that's fantastic. But you have to also have the systems in place. And these cost money, but they're worth it. So instead of having a property manager or a VA, I have the systems to make my life easier as the property manager, as the communicator. So I use a property management software, which make my life much more passive. And then I have some hardware in some cases that go along with that. So for example, I use the property management software OwnerRez. That means there's one point of truth for all of my listings and the communications go through there as well. Automatic communications, there's automatic security deposits, automatic renters agreements that get sent. All of that is completely automated. It communicates with our Schlage encode locks through a software called Remote Lock. And so the locks are automatic. The codes get sent to the guests automatically. They set themselves a half an hour before check-in and they stop working a half an hour after check-out. I use dynamic pricing software called Price Labs. So I've automated the pricing. I've automated how I take payments for VRBO and direct bookings through Stripe. And then we have QuickBooks, which we use for our books. And then to make that passive, I pay a bookkeeper every month to handle those things. So there's ways to make it more passive. And then we have, of course, the smart thermostats and cameras as well. So with all of that, I am spending certainly more time than I would if they were long-term rentals, because it's probably 15, 20 minutes a day at this point. But, we gross over $200,000 a year for that.
Tom, are those the same software tools that you use to manage your mix of long-term and short-term rentals?
I have one short-term, no, but I use Lauren as my resource. So I'm wasting at least 15 minutes more of her day asking her questions that could have been answered by having some of those systems. So if I do hit this over to a second or a third short-term rental, I will definitely be going that route. But for right now, with my setup, I've bought her guides. I've bounced lots of ideas off of her and gotten my systems in place. I'm just not at the 10-door level that Lauren is currently. So I do have a few systems. Like I do task lists to my contractors each at the beginning of the week. And these are the priorities. This is what we need to get done this week. And that comes with the draw at the end of the week. And that comes with, if you hit this, you're getting this bonus. And I will tell you, I do those bonuses all the time with them and it never works. They don't want the extra $100, $200. They just take their damn time.
Oh, yeah.
I have other systems in place, but not the OwnerRez and the multiple different systems that Lauren has.
Tom takes some of my time for the short-term rentals. I equally take that time back from Tom for the long-term rentals. But Tom, what are you doing for rent payments and like getting leases signed?
Repair requests.
Yeah, repair requests is what I was thinking. Exactly. How is that? What do you have softwares for that?
I don't have software, but I do like Ohio. All 14 of those doors go to a one person for the request and get funneled out to the different contractors through him. The payments are all digital, except for I have one old school tenant in Ohio and one old school tenant in Texas. So I do pick up rent from the one in Texas, not the one in Ohio, but I have someone scheduled to go pick it up in Ohio as well. They'll tell me when it's a disaster and they need help, but typically if it's like a broken faucet, I don't hear about it till it's done and I get the bill.
You said Lauren has lists that you've bought. What lists?
Setting up your short-term rental. Like it's a great guide that I got early on. And I got, it's a guide and it's a checklist that, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? You're going to need this if you're going to do this short-term rental. So she had that. Lauren, tell me the other guides that I have. The setup has been the most.
Yeah, I have the supply list is great. These are my Gumroad guides. They're almost all free. The supply list is free and it says it's little things that you might not think of, like a padded rug for your kitchen. That might not be something that you think of, or make sure you have an iron and an ironing board. And someone's like, do you really need it? And I said, yes. My first guests were like 2 18-year-old boys and they're like, the iron doesn't work. And I thought, wow, I'm going to need an iron for sure in every single unit if these
My
guys
first
want
guest,
it.
they're like, where is the ironing board? And I'm like, calm down. It's in the box still. It's in the closet. Just open the door.
Right.
So no, they're looking for that, and they're looking for the blow dryer too.
They're looking for the blow dryer for sure. I had a blow dryer disappear.
Oh,
Lauren, do you mind if we put some of those lists in the stackingdeeds.net/show notes for people to subscribe to and receive?
Absolutely. I would love for you guys to have that
Thank
link.
you.
And there's one of the more recent ones was automated messages you should be sending through Airbnb. I have my house rules in there. House rules are very important when people are booking. I have, I think, my checkout instructions in there, the chore list, the dreaded chore list. So you can see how I handle some of those things. And then there's how to analyze a deal. There's a guide for that. And then how to succeed in short-term rentals. And that has all of that tech stack stuff and the hardware that I talked about.
Didn't you have a cleaning checklist too? Because I feel like I've given that to mine and I'm like, you need to do it like this. And then I come back and I'm like, you didn't follow this at all, did you? And they're like, I lost
Yeah,
it.
they
And I'm
don't.
like,
yeah, that's like me going to the grocery store. Yeah, I go to the grocery store with a list, but I never look at it.
Yeah, they don't.
But lists are so important though. So going back to the team, how do we even find reliable and trustworthy third-party providers? Are you actually trusting online reviews, or has it been referrals, or like Tom has a Lauren, we have a Lauren, and we know we all have an Alan and a Tom. So how are we even finding these trustworthy people?
for me, it's trial and error. I mean, it's, I got burned on one of my very first Dallas projects and I'm like, well, I'm not doing that again. And I can't remember what it was. It was $400 or $800. But at that time, I'm like, man, what am I going to do? I just lost $400 on this and I had to figure it out.
That's a lot of Taco Bell. Yeah, that cost
You're telling me.
He could have been going to Chipotle that whole time.
Not even now. But yeah, trial and error, word of mouth, referrals. Recently I've had people who are like, hey, do you want this done? There's a few that have been like, hey, it's the frugal gay. You want to work together on something? And I'm like, no, but thank you. So I don't know if you guys have run into that where people are like, I want to do stuff with you. And you're like, I have a team, but thank you. But, and I'm stronger in certain spots. And I've talked about this before. I'll struggle in certain areas in Ohio or in Texas. And like, I wish I could swap my teams. And I've done it before when I've been in a pinch and I've sent Texas people up to Ohio because it's just like pulling teeth. And I know that if I hand them money, they can get the job done.
Yeah. Same sort of thing for me where it's trial and error. But then I've sort of realized leveraging other people's networks is key, which is sort of, if you find another investor, that investor is probably already trial and error property managers or real estate agents or plumbers, whatever that you may need. And so making those friends and those connections, or at least talking to a real estate agent in that town and interviewing other property managers, that's sort of a way to just sort of piggyback off someone else's network. One of my more controversial approaches is I usually say, go look on Yelp for property management companies, and usually the ones with the lowest ratings are the best. And so I like the property management companies with 2 stars. If it's 3 stars or more, I get a little suspicious because the people, if you actually read the comments, it's the people complaining that the property managers following the lease to the T, right? They would not let me move my dog in, or they fined me because I paid my rent late. Like these are the rules that I would want a property manager to enforce and be very strict and rigid. It's one of the only companies I can think of where the lower the reviews usually tells me that they're a better property management company.
I would have never used Yelp for that. I thought that was food. But that's a good point. You got to consider the source, of what they're complaining about.
Here I am going on Facebook groups. I'm going on local Facebook groups and asking for cleaners. And Alan's out here living in the year 3023.
I'll be honest, you still get some dumpy property management companies, but it's what I found is the ones that I love actually don't have better ratings. So it is what it is.
I'm going to agree.
That is interesting.
I got a really terrible property manager with a great glowing review from a really big company. And they were the worst, awful. And then I would agree with Alan's approach. Those reviews speak volumes. Reviews can be faked.
I believe that.
In the future, what I might do is get a VA.
I like that.
To make things more passive. I don't think I'll go full property management. I think I'll try to do a better job of documenting my processes better so that someone can, act as me, especially when it comes to communicating with guests and, double checking renters agreements and security deposits and payments and things like that. So a VA is something I'll probably use in the future, maybe when I'm like retired. But the next step is me leaving my job, and basically I'm hanging myself as my property manager from there.
I agree, Lauren, that VAs are great in the real estate world. A lot of people in my network, they'll hire someone in the Philippines, $500 a month for a full-time employee, and they're the ones who can reply to emails or book the vendors and communicate and coordinate schedules with tenants and plumbers and electricians and all that stuff that sort of eats up your time. If you can sort of automate it or have a VA do it, that's great. Also, a sponsor of our show, Himlane Property Management Company. It's a property management software that also they use VAs that you can leverage. So you can actually leverage their VA network who's been trained to use this. So these tools actually keep making real estate investing easier and more passive. Sure, learning the systems, setting it up, installing it for the first time, it takes work. But once you get a flow going and you start adding a second property and a third property, a fourth property, it gets easier and faster each time, making real estate investing more passive as you go. And like I said, 5 years in, 10 years in, it's out of sight, out of mind with the right people, the right systems, the right technology.
And what I've seen too much of is people working in their real estate business to the point where they stop buying new deals. So they're saving in the short run, say the 10% of a property management fee, or maybe 20 if we're talking short-term rentals, but then they don't go get more deals that can make them more money. So in some ways, not looking at your systems and your processes and figuring out how to make this income more passive can literally cost you money on deals in the long run.
Got it.
Oh, 100% agree with that.
It takes trial and error to get there.
True.
And now when I come up and I have broken pipes in a house and I'm like, oh, I've done this, and I have fixes and I know who can fix it and I know what it's going to cost this time. And, it just takes that time. And I try and stress this to people. I have a client who just closed on his first property in the US, and I'm like, I started making money at door number 5. It took me getting through 4 doors and one of them being a money pit to get here, to get to number 5. And I remember when I started making money on that. So I think that that's one thing that, this article kind of touches on the 2 properties that they've had, and they're 2 doors in. And I, myself being at 24 currently, it takes a long time to get where you have those systems in place. And Lauren, how many short-term did you have when you moved over to this software or, switched over to this system because you were annoyed with changing locks and doing this and doing that? Yeah. So I think it takes that first couple of bumpy roads to get to smooth sailing. And I mean, that's just part of it as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's this idea of portfolio stabilization. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but that's what I call it. And not a lot of people talk about that. And Alan, you were touching on it earlier where you said, once I buy a property, I know in 10 years that the AC is good, that the water heater is good, that the roof is good, all of these things. That's where now I think what I'm heading for is stabilizing my portfolio, not opening short-term rental after short-term rental and rolling those profits in and actually taking some losses over the last couple of years. I think I'm going to get into that stabilization part. And that is when you start definitely making money, I think. And Alan, your book says too, 5 properties, right? I mean, 5 properties is when you can kind of quit your job, I think was your thesis. And I think that has something to do with stabilization.
Yeah, I think so. And it sounds like, Tom, your first 4 were a learning lesson, and ideally, education with these shows and us trying to teach people. You learn from our mistakes so that you're profitable on property number 1, and, build those systems and leverage other people's teams so that it's easier and easier right out of the gates. But we have those scars on our back, and we're all out here teaching people not to do the same thing. So yeah, I do think 5 properties is really the magic number. I was able to leave my day job after 4 And that was just in a really great timing. But, I had plans for a fifth, and that was really going to be my exit plan. And just sort of when you work the numbers backwards and you sort of can get most of your expenses covered, maybe depending on your expenses, you don't leave your full-time job fully, but maybe you take a lesser paying job that's more that you want to do, or maybe you take a 3-month sabbatical, or it just basically opens up doors and gives you options for that deep breath. And you're like, I can actually do what I really want to do with my life, kind of thing.
Just don't buy a crack house on eBay, because that set me back. I'm like, here's another door. And then it was just, I stayed another year at my job after that purchase because I had to undig the hole that house dug. So you got to buy the right properties. And, I still own door 1 and 2, and those cash flowed I've owned them 19 years now.
Wow.
And so I bought the first right one, but boy, door number 3 was a disaster. And when I wrote that check and got rid of that one, it was a jubilant day. It was my birthday, and I wrote that check to the title company, and I was so excited to get that one out of my life.
Usually it's the buyers that are writing checks, not the sellers.
I'm aware. I know the drill. I know how to do this right at this point, but it took me getting there.
Not the crack house on eBay sellers.
Yeah, I don't own that one anymore either. Thankfully.
Well, that's the thing. We all started really young too. Like
true, 20s.
21,
yeah,
22, 23, I think.
Yeah.
That's just
26.
You don't know a lot then.
26, Crystal?
Yeah, it's 26.
Okay, so there you go. So we were all 20s.
Yeah, very young.
That's what do you know? Sorry, guys. Love you all if you're in your 20s. But to come talk to me when you're in your 30s and be like, nope, Lauren was right. I didn't know much of my 20s.
That's a fact.
Great, guys. Thank you for sharing your wisdom here in the back of Ruth, the realtor's car. Unfortunately, it looks like we just pulled up to a crack house that's for sale on eBay. So I'm going to let you, Tom, out here along with Lauren so that maybe you guys can make a bid on this property.
Good luck, Lauren.
All right, Tom. Watch my back.
Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, wow. That was great, Crystal. I learned so much that, one, I appreciate my property managers more and more because I'm not self-managing, and just to hear Lauren and Tom and the systems that they use, it's amazing. And so I'm glad they're sharing their inside baseball, if you will.
Me too. Yeah. And I self-manage and I hate it. So I will definitely reach out to get myself out of the management seat. And I secretly want to try a burrito with M&Ms on it.
You try it first, and if you like it, then I'll try it. How about that?
We'll do a report back.
Awesome. So for your self-managing, do you use software tools, or how are you doing it?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Call as they come. So, but remember, I'm smaller. I only have 2 active tenants right now. So it's manageable now. But
are they within your
in a
city?
different state?
Yeah.
Totally different state.
Okay.
Right. But 700 miles away. Yeah, my people are 700 miles away. So I depend on, the people that I know out there, but there's nothing on autopilot yet.
Yeah. But you have a full-time job and it's passable. It's work, but
not there yet.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's something to your first 1 or 2 doing it yourself, and then you understand what the role that you want to hire for to replace you, or the software to replace you. So yeah, no, great stuff in this roundtable. And I'm glad that we were able to all squeeze into the car and Tom was able to get up on the roof and still participate.
Great show.
Thanks guys for joining us. Go to stackingdeeds.net/show notes, subscribe. We'll send you all the links we talked about today, and we'll see you.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Take it away, Doug.
So, what should we have learned today? First, take some advice from panelist Lauren Aumond. Communication early and often with guests and tenants is the main key to success. Second, Tom Brickman taught us that a good local team with boots on the ground are going to be your main lifesaver. Building trust through third-party vendors is the best passive playbook. But the big lesson? Unlike that killer band at Chuck E. Cheese, turns out you actually need to know how to play an instrument to be in a mariachi band. Looks like I put on these tight pants for nothing. Yeah, I wonder if they call it Carlos A. Queso in Mexico. Gotta go check it out. Thanks to Lauren Aumond. She can be found online at Adulting is Easy. And thanks to Tom Brickman, a.k.a. @TheFrugalGay11, for joining us today. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingdeeds.net. Thanks to our hosts, Crystal Hammond, a.k.a. at Condo Crystal, and Alan Corey, a.k.a. at Real Estate Maxi. And I can't forget about our La Bamba-loving producer, Jasmine Radler. That girl can move. Until next Taco Tuesday, adios, my deaters.